Alright guys, here I am, Mr. Mint, ready to start this video with you guys. Oh! Wow! That was awkward. Tell you that Mr. Mint guy, he sure knows how to rock the boat. Anyways, welcome 7th graders to another flipped video lesson. This is for chapter 3.3 and 3.4. And as the title says, we're going to take a close-up view of some of the 13 colonies. This is the first of a series of flip videos that will look at 8 of the 13 colonies. Today we'll be looking at Massachusetts and the Rhode Island colonies. All right, move my little face down there. For taking notes, on the screen here is a suggested outline. You do not have to do a web like this if you would prefer not to. At the very least, what I need for you to do is to have these categories. You need to have a category about government, religion, reasons for leaving, economics, geography, and climate. You also then need to make sure you put the name of the colony. You can fill the information in either with words or if you want, hey, do pictures. I encourage you, if you're an artist, use pictures. I really think that will be more beneficial than words, especially if you can draw pictures that show the government or the climate or the geography. All right, let's begin. Massachusetts was a colony, part of the New England colony. The reasons for leaving were really the same for both the main groups that came over. First off, there were the separatists, who we also know as the Pilgrims. They left England because of religious persecution and because they wanted to have a separate church. They felt it was time to leave the Church of England. It was not going the way they wanted it to go. They felt people were not living by the strict biblical standards that they felt were the best way to live a Christian life. The Puritans also left because of religious persecution too. They felt, much like the Pilgrims before them, that the church needed to be purified, that they was not living and following the precepts or the standards set down by Jesus in the Bible. The colony of Massachusetts, climate-wise, had very harsh winters, as you can see from the picture here, but they did have very warm summers. If you were to look at a map where the New England colonies are, roughly if you were to go directly west toward our state in Oregon, if you were to draw a line, the New England colonies would have a line that would kind of go in the southern part of Washington and Oregon. So they kind of get the same sort of summers, although their winters are a little more harsher than ours. Geography-wise, they had sandy coasts with good ports, rich pastures, and forests. Lots of forests, lots of wood. Now remember, one of the main economic activities of the New England colonies was shipbuilding, and you have these ports to help them do that. Religion. Again, the Puritans and Pilgrims were very similar in their religious beliefs. The Puritans felt, again, remember, they felt that the English church, the Anglican church as it was called, had gotten too much pomp and circumstance, too frilly. They wanted to simplify the services on Sundays or Saturdays whenever they had them. They also wanted to get rid of ranks of authority within the church. You know, just keep it simple. Have a pastor and a congregation, and that's it. The Pilgrims, much the same, felt like they needed to follow the Bible more closely. So they were very strict on how they felt they should live their lives. And down here you can see a difference between the Puritans and the Pilgrims. Government. The Pilgrims had the Mayflower Compact, a very well-known document. It is actually the first written outline for a government that was written in the United States of America, or what would later become the United States of America. The Mayflower Compact helped to create laws, the Constitution, and offices that would help to rule the country. It didn't actually set up exactly what those laws, Constitution, and offices would be, but what it did was it was an agreement that everyone said, we will follow whatever laws we can come up, whatever we come up with. They also said they would vote directly on important issues and they would hold regular meetings when the need arose. The Puritans were given a charter to settle in Massachusetts Bay. The charter also allowed them to govern themselves. Of course, they wanted to have a stricter adherence to biblical standards, so that charter really helped with that. Economy-wise for Massachusetts, they had crops. Livestock and farming was a small factor of it because of such the rocky soil that they had. Lumber was a huge part, and so was shipping and trading. Let's move on now to Rhode Island, another New England colony. And here is something interesting. The reasons why people came to Rhode Island was for religious freedom from not the British government, but from the Puritan-led colony of Massachusetts. Interesting. Think about this for a second. Massachusetts, the Puritans and Pilgrims, namely the Puritans, left England for religious purposes. They wanted the church. They wanted their lives to be more like the church. So they left England. And then when they got to England, they saw people who were preaching against the Puritans. So they politely asked them to leave. They kicked them out. Actually, Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson were kicked out because of their religious preachings. And they came and formed Rhode Island. Pause the video and ask yourself, is that fair? All right, so hopefully you paused the video and you thought about my question. I'd be curious to talk to you guys next class about this. Geography-wise, they had coastal lowlands. They had coves. It was fairly flat, but it was very rocky and wooded, and this would affect their economics. In fact, the coves were so hidden well that pirates, army métis, liked to hide there. The climate was hot, humid summers, but cold, snowy winters. Lastly, the government of Rhode Island. They did elect an assembly and had assemblymen. They also allowed for different religious beliefs. That was a big part of Rhode Island. They felt that the Puritans of Massachusetts had not allowed people to have their own religious beliefs. They did not want to make that same mistake. So here's a little chart here that I found online that talks more about Rhode Island, the religious freedom that they had, and how they wanted to separate church and state. They didn't want the church to be running the state, the government, but they also didn't want the government running the church. A little bit of both there. Lastly, for economics, they had dairy and cattle farms, lumber, whaling, fishing, shipbuilding, and the slave trade. One final tidbit, and then you can turn it off. The slave trade was a big evil. And when the people of Massachusetts heard that the people of Rhode Island were allowing the slave traders to come in, they were like, ugh, no wonder we kicked you guys out. You allow slave trades. You truly aren't real followers of Christ. So very, very interesting dynamics between the two colonies. Right? Thank you for watching very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please make sure you go to Edmodo, answer the questions on the homework post so that I, Mr. Volkman, can read over to make sure you're doing okay. Have a good night.
Mr. Volkman, I'm still on the floor. Help!